Welcome, everyone, to Healing Wednesdays and the Circle of 12. I'm Lee Carroll.
And I'm Monica Morani.
This is our once-a-month free program, so we appreciate especially all of our YouTube subscribers and all of those of you who are joining us, perhaps, for the first time all over the planet. We have a special welcome to the members of the Circle of 12 who receive one of these programs absolutely every single week of the year. So if you're a member or thinking about members, you have not only this program duplicated every single Wednesday, but you get free replays to every single program we have ever done forever, as long as you're a member. And it's a library that continues to grow and grow. That library has other things as well. There's some bonuses. There's some special music here that you can listen to. Easy to subscribe to, Kryonmasters.com. This is where I tell you that if the stream stops, just wait a little bit. Quite often we start again. This has to do with the internet, folks, yours and ours. And so it's not a situation that often is controllable, but if it happens to you and your internet is bad for whatever reason, or ours is bad for some reason, and you start to get a picture which starts and stops, or the sound is bad or whatever, please don't be frustrated. Replays of this program are available to all of you. YouTube subscribers, you will have your replay right here. Also, the members, you'll have it in your portal. So these programs are recorded, and those recordings are perfect. They're not streamed like this one is. That's the difference. So I've said those things, and we want to get on to something else now. We get the questions that are submitted through our membership in the Circle of 12, and we take some time and try to answer them. So, Monica?
I would love to share the first question that we're going to address in this session. We have Elsie from California in the US, and the question is a very good one, in my opinion. Lee, how do we know if the Circle of 12 is real? I love that question. It's really getting to the crux of why would you even do a Circle of 12?
Well, you know,
is it real?
It gets to, yes, but it gets to also to answer a question that Kryon has posed. When we started this, we've been doing this a long time now. The very first channels, Kryon kept repeating, this is real. This is real. And you come to a point where you say, how does this work with those who say to you, I've got to touch it and feel it and it's real. If I can't touch it and feel it, it isn't real. If you're esoterically minded, you already know that there is reality beyond what you can touch and feel. Those who astral travel really do. Those who have any kind of a multidimensional experience understand that is just a different reality. But for those who have trouble understanding that, I would say the first thing is this: there are many things that you experience which you cannot touch and feel that are real, and you just haven't gone through the list. My favorite is that who is it you love the most in your life? Daughter, son, wife, husband, whatever. And the question is, can you touch and feel the love? And the answer is no. But it's there. And when you fall in love for the first time, you have that thickness. It is even an insanity that goes on. You can't touch and feel that either. So this is part of what we're talking about. There are things that are very, very real that you can't touch and feel. That's the premise of all of this. The Circle of 12 takes you into a multidimensional experience. It's not astral travel exactly, but it's close to it. It puts you in a place, through visualization or not, that is part of the multidimensional soul that each one of us has. Now, in doing that, you have to ask, well, is this real or not? All right, the next thing I would say is that if it isn't real at all, then there won't be any, I will say, evidence of it. And yet, the evidence of it is everywhere. Of those who are watching this program regularly, from the testimonies we've had, there's been a lot of healings. And there's been healings not just of physical healings. So many talk about a change of life, attitude, lack of fear, anxiety going away, all of those things. If this were not real, that would not have occurred. if this is completely and totally a fake journey just for fun or a meditation, or that none of those things would have occurred. This is absolutely real. That is truly my answer. It's got to be in the evidence of what takes place. When you're in love, the evidence of what takes place is that it's often returned. The one who you're in love with feels the same thing again. Even in an animal, you can feel the love returned and all of that, and yet you can't touch and feel it. So there are many things. Then if you enter the science of all of it, a scientist will tell you there is a multidimensional world you cannot see that's as real as the one you can touch and feel. That's now been proven. So you get on board with all of this and you say, well, maybe it is more of a quantum experience, an overused word in my opinion. But yes, that's where we're going. We're going to an experience that is not in 3D, and science says that most of reality is not in 3D. We're already at 11 dimensions, scientifically only live in 4. So this is where we're at with this, and that's truly my answer. Experience it. See what you think. And let it happen, even if you believe that perhaps there is a question of whether it's real. If you allow it to be something in your mind that you say, okay, I'm ready to go there, that's almost like you're giving permission of your consciousness and your body to go to that place, perhaps, that you don't even think exists.
That was such a beautiful answer, Lee. Thank you for sharing your perspective and giving us some beautiful perspectives on what is real and what is not. So let's go to the next question. This is from Lisa. Lisa is in Missouri in the US, and she's asking, is it okay to let our negative feelings out once in a while as long as it doesn't hurt anyone else, or should we keep them inside and just keep quiet? What's your response to Lisa?
Lisa, I think you already know the answer. And psychologists would always tell you that keeping them inside is not good for you. It festers and all that. In fact, many of them will say, it's time to go into the closet and let out a primal scream or two. What we teach is that is exactly one of the issues of many, what we learned many years ago from so many modality teachers and so many healers, that a festering anger, for instance, or negative feelings of any kind can turn into disease. So it's not just, it's good for you to let it out. It can shorten your life. So many of the facilitators that we have talk about ways of releasing anger without getting into the closet and doing primal screams that is a lot more sophisticated and makes sense. And their modalities include ceremony. I know that you've studied
yes, there was
some of the biological decoding that does this.
There's symbolic acts as well are very important for our human psyche to process those negative feelings and transmute them. I think that's what it's about, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
To let them out and transmute.
Right. There's a lot better ways. Now, also, I would like to say, Lisa, that you got one thing that I want to repeat to others, so without hurting anyone. It's like, for instance...
Doesn't that show what a gentle soul she is?
Absolutely. You've got that right.
Even in posturing the question.
You don't then assault somebody verbally and feel better about it.
Actually, any kind of negative feelings,
that's right.
It makes us feel icky.
It does.
And it's because it's a low vibrational consciousness. And it happens to me. I can have negative statements a lot, and part of it is self-compassion for yourself that you even experience that. I think that's when you start generating compassion for yourself. It's okay to have negative feelings. Have compassion for yourself. It's icky, and yet we have the capacity to transmute that and then step into a higher vibration.
I think
that's
also,
the circle of 12
if I can say, because this is the free program is going to YouTube, all you YouTubers have seen this over and over and over. And that would be very scathing, negative, angry horrible comments about something somebody doesn't like, perhaps even this program, and you'll see it there, and you'll realize what has happened. They've just let primal screams out at us, hurtful, unkind, and you have to say, well, I hope you feel better now. But you see it all the time. And there's a lot more elegant ways of doing this rather than that kind of an assault on other people. Not that the esoteric people would do that who would be listening to this program who understand, but you see what I'm saying, is that there are some very elegant ways to release negativity and anger that we're teaching.
Beautiful. I hope that helped, Lisa. And your question itself shows what a beautiful, compassionate, loving soul you are. So let's go to the next question, which is Mary from Massachusetts in the US. She's asking, what would the new normal look like according to Kryon? Could you elaborate on this, please? And Mary's saying that the term has been used a lot by different sources, such as Kryon, and even the mass media are picking up on this buzzword of new normal. You want to explain?
Well, Mary, I'd love
further?
to tell you that they all got it from Kryon. They didn't. It occurred to them by itself. However, I think Kryon was one of the first to coin it, and because this comes right out of something at least 3 years old. I forget, you've been with me all these years, and we've been presenting when Kryon started talking about the new normal and giving examples of what it might look like.
It was definitely post-2012. That was our big shift, and that's when we started really hearing from Kryon that 2013 was a year of recalibration, and that emerging out of that recalibration was going to be the new human, the new normal.
Now, Kryon has talked about this so often, so much, and here it comes. One of the things Kryon has says is you're going to see it, and you're going to understand it. And now they are. So now you have mass media, journalists, and all by themselves coming with that new name. To me, it's a validation of the shift that is here, because now we're in this new normal. But your question is, what would the new normal look like?
Yes.
That is all over the Kryon books and the new human, the name of Kryon book 14. Basically, it's a human being who is more compassionate, who is kinder, who reacts different to people and perceptions and all, and it's noticeable. Kryon has talked about this and has given you scenarios of the future. We have an election special on our site that is free, that we did. Now, of course, election is over, but you can still see it. And he talks about what politics might look like in the new normal, let's say in 10 years. And you get a picture of how different the planet might be. But truly, it's how people react to each other, perceive each other, and a new kind of compassionate action and kindness in humanity. That's what a new normal would look like, which, of course, would then change everything. It would change business, politics, corporate, and the way people work with one another. And it's already happening with the Me Too movement, with all of the other kinds of things. When you see issues that are inappropriate between humans, and they've been I would say, with us for hundreds of years, and they begin to resolve them, that is a new normal. When you see the unrest because of the authorities, and they say, well, it's got to be resolved, and we start to then resolve them, that is part of all of this in the new normal. So we are starting to see changes in our society, in our culture, and other countries are too. That's all part of it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Lee. And we're now going to move into a meditation, and that will be followed by a channel from Kryon. And let's use this brief pause in our day, this moment where we can stop. Let's use this moment to have self-compassion for our own journey. And the compassion is generated from inside you. Your heart has such a capacity for love, gratitude, compassion. And I invite you to place your hands on your heart. Feel that connection within yourself. And use this time to slow your breathing so that you are breathing in slowly through your nose and out through your mouth. And allow deep breaths slowly in and slowly out. And shift your focus to your heart center, where you are now connecting with your own hands. Feel the love and gratitude for being in the right place at the right time, connecting with your own compassionate, loving heart. And as we focus on our heart, perhaps there is a message that your heart is wanting to send to you. And in this space of slow breathing, in this quietness, allow yourself to feel, sense, or perceive what that message from your heart is communicating to you. Just allow communication to flow. Feel the gratitude and love that your heart is sending to you. Feel the joy and excitement your heart has that you are beginning this dialogue. It is so happy to hear from you. It has been so happy to communicate these beautiful, loving messages to you. And it asks you to please communicate again and again in the future. With a few more breaths, enjoy this quiet stillness, this beautiful connection with your beautiful, loving heart. And you may now gently release your hands. Put them onto your lap or wherever else is comfortable. And we now invite the loving messages from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. I would like to speak just briefly, but in a way I never have before, about something you're going to hear more and more about. It's called the field. The field has been defined many times because it's starting to be seen and measured. Is it possible that there could be some kind of field of energy around all of you that is the field of consciousness? But it's so big and contains so much more than you that it might be the consciousness of all of those in the planet collectively, so that you might sense something that is coming. Now we have movies about it, documentaries about it, measurements of it. And there would be those who say, well, I can sense it in the field. And they'd be right. We now know on this planet, you now know on this planet, together, there is a consensus that consciousness has to be energy. It is not some fleeting thing that simply psychologists speak of. Measured, it is. And so if consciousness is energy, then you have to apply the rules of energy to consciousness. It is possible that consciousness then radiates a field of consciousness. And with the billions of humans on the planet, that field may be all around you. For those who are intuitive, they may sense things in the field. I've said this many, many times. I predicted some time ago that you would get a new pope. And you did within 13 months. And the current one did not have to die for that. So it was truly an anomaly. But dear ones, this was done so you could see the example that we have given. It was not a prediction. It was not something that was out of the blue, some say, because that was in the field. You see, the current pope was already in trouble. In trouble perhaps in a way that he knew he must resign. And so he did. But that was known in the consciousness field at the time I gave it to you, and 13 months later, it manifested with a new pope. You see, what I'm telling you is I gave you an example of things that are not predictions necessarily, but reading that which is going on in the field. There's a lot going on in the field at the moment, and many are starting to pick up things, good things. The field also gives very, very positive things, because those who are thinking that there are wonderful things about to happen or inventions starting to manifest themselves, that's also in the field, as well as things that might be crumbling or changing. That's in the field. But here's what I want to tell you. The field is a multidimensionality of consciousness. Consciousness, although energy, is also multidimensional. It has to be. What I want to tell you is that because consciousness is not linear, you cannot read it in a linear fashion. You simply cannot. Therefore, you read it like a dream would be read. Perhaps you have a very profound dream. You think you know what it means, but it's nonsensical. Many of you have these kinds of dreams. So you'll go to a dream specialist who will then sit with you and say, well, that is a beautiful dream, and you're really coming into your own and dismissing this and that because this happened in your dream, and this meant this, and this meant this. And you come away and you go, wow, isn't my consciousness beautiful the way it gives me this information? And you'd be right. That's your own consciousness talking to you in metaphors. So if you are dreaming certain kinds of things and you go to a specialist and they reveal what your consciousness is giving you, that is an example of what I'm going to give you in the field. The field does not give linear issues in a linear fashion. It gives them in a multidimensional fashion, and that means quite often everything that is sensed in the field is metaphoric. It means something else. Did you get that? Readers and psychics have always read the field. This is how they get their information. A reader or a psychic who sits across from you is reading your field. They don't have a magic crystal ball, as some would think. The field is the energy that you're generating with your consciousness and your subconscious, and it all is there. So when it's time to read the field, there are so many errors that occur. Errors in not understanding that the field speaks in metaphors, period. Very, very, very seldom does it give you a linear event that's coming. I want to give you two examples, and you're going to understand them. For many, many years, there have been many belief systems on this planet that have been reading the field. And what they've been reading is the potential of the shift. All of the indigenous on this planet, all of them had some kind of inkling about that which is cyclical with the planet. Cyclical with the planet. It happens in cycles, and part of the cycles come from that which is the wobble of the earth, the position of the stars. The indigenous saw that. The prophecies of 2012, the precession of the equinox, was seen clearly by many, many indigenous in their cycles. And how they interpreted it was very interesting. All the way to your modern religions, they interpreted it because it was in the field. And what they told you was this: that the masters of old, some specific, some not, would be coming back to this earth. Some very linear things giving you about the turn of that into the year 2000 and beyond, and that trumpet would sound and people would disappear and they would come and there would be peace on earth and a different consciousness would reign. That didn't happen, dear ones. You said 21 years later from when it was seen, it didn't happen. But what is happening is a new normal, a change of consciousness, a kindness, a compassion, a cleanup. All of the things that they talked about in a linear fashion are happening differently. Do you see that? They were right. Oh, you say, but they weren't right because that master didn't return. Oh, really? What if that also was a metaphor? What if we have the masters of the planet entering the field of the consciousness, all of that? What if they're back, but they didn't come in robes and linears and blowing trumpets? Do you see what I'm saying? I'll give you number two. For years, there have been predictions of a complete and total utter failure of your stock market in America. They say these are systemic issues. They're going to fall. You cannot change it enough because it's systemic. The very system is broken. Therefore, I'm going to write this book and that book, and I'm an expert of stock markets, and it's going to crash and all of these things. And I'll tell you, it's way past its expiration point. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. But what did was COVID, which stopped the planet. It stopped transactions. It changed the way people buy and sell at a systemic level. It changed the stock market. It changed banking. In other words, what if everything they saw in a linear fashion as a complete collapse was simply what you are going through right now? And they couldn't interpret it any other way than a collapse. And instead, you get a recalibration as the world stops and recalibrates and starts again. That's what it looked like to them. I am telling you this for a reason, because you're going to hear all manner of predictions. And some of them are continuing with doom and gloom. Since my partner was born, he has had doom and gloom predictions, and none of them occurred because they were misread. This is a channel that says that things are not always as they seem. Things in the field that some of you are sensing may not be exactly what's going to happen. It starts to explain why some prophecies simply fall on their face. They don't happen in the manner that they are given to you in a linear fashion. But when you look around, you see the results as though they did. You see what I'm saying? Your future is different from anyone's vision. It's grander. It's beautiful. And the field is going to start to give you information about what's coming, metaphorically. Beautiful, dear ones, it is. Be wise in these things when people tell you things that they're sensing or predicting. Be understanding of this message in this channel more than you think, different, and perhaps even a little more benevolent than you think it could be. And so it is.
And slowly, very gently, bring your awareness back into your body. If you've had your eyes closed, you may open your eyes. Bring your awareness to be more fully present in this moment. And you may wish to loosen your shoulders, relax your body. And Lee and I have been so excited all day. We've been waiting all day for this moment where we have our very good friend, Greg Braden, joining us.
We even came in early.
We've been sitting here going,
yeah, we have.
So, Greg, are you there?
I am here. If you can hear me and see me.
Yes, we can.
We can indeed.
Yay.
It's so good to see both of you. I have to say, the lockdown really agrees with you. You both look, I hope you feel as good as you look on this screen right now.
We do, indeed we do.
We do, and right back at you.
Yeah, I'll say.
I am coming to you today from a studio, a film studio just outside of Santa Fe, where we're doing some recordings for a program on ancient civilizations, and that's why you're seeing what you're seeing behind me. And we're completely unscripted. I am really happy to be with your community and with you today, and I'm just going to follow your lead, and let's see where we go with this today.
Well, I want to tell people just a little bit about you. To Greg, when you say Greg Braden, to most people, they know exactly who we're talking about, and I've mentioned Greg on the show many times. I want to read the bio, and this is what we call a short bio. It's very important that you understand the profundity of this man, my friend. Greg Braden is a 5-time New York Times best-selling author. Now, just right there, you've probably heard many people are best-selling this or that. This is a 5-time New York Times best-selling author, scientist, international educator, renowned as a pioneer in the emerging paradigm based in science, social policy, and human potential. From 79 to 91, Greg worked as a problem solver during times of crisis for Fortune 500 companies, including Cisco Systems, where he became the first technical operation manager in 1991. He continues problem solving even today as his work reveals deep insights into the new human story and how the discoveries inform the policies of everyday life and the emerging world. To date, are you ready for this? His research has led him to 15 film credits, 12 award-winning books now published in over 40 languages.
And most people probably know Greg from the Gaia TV.
Yeah, that's right.
Among so many other things. Now, Greg's the proud recipient of numerous awards, including the Walden Award for New Thought, the Illuminate Award for Conscious Visionaries, and he's listed in UK's Watkins Mind, Body, Spirit magazine as among the top 100 of the world's most spiritually influential living people for the 7th consecutive year. He's a nominee for the prestigious Templeton Award, which was established to honour outstanding living individuals who have devoted their talents to expanding our vision of human purpose and ultimate reality. I can't think of anyone who suits that description more than Greg Braden.
That's right.
Now, Greg's also, if that wasn't enough, he's also involved in visionary organisations and think tanks, including the American Association for the Advancement of Science, the Evolutionary Leadership Organisation, the Laszlo Institute of New Paradigm Research, and the Arlington Institute.
He has presented his discoveries in over 30 countries on 6 continents, has been invited to speak to the United Nations, Fortune 500 companies, and of course, the U.S. military. I always want to put that one in. Greg speaks to a lot more than even he can say in his bio. I know this. Good friend of mine, sought after for his wisdom and what he knows and what is going on the planet today. Greg, Thank you so much for being here.
Wow. Well, thank you all for such a beautiful, warm welcome. And Lee, I'm honored to share the Watkins list with you. I don't know what numbers we are these days, but I know we're both on there.
I was 99 for a long time.
But you're still there.
I think I squeak in. They're just looking for it. We'll include him.
No, you're still there, Lee, and you have touched the lives. I've witnessed you touch the lives of thousands of people in one day. The largest audiences I've ever spoken to in the world were with you when you and I toured in some beautiful European cities back in the early 2000s, I think is when it was. So thank you for that. And the really good news is one of the requirements of those awards is they be giving to living people.
That's right.
So that's the affirmation. I am a living person, and that's what juices me to get out of bed in the morning. So it's really good to be with you, and I'm honored to share. This is the first time in this program, in this venue, in this new world that's emerging, and I love this set, the venue where we're speaking at today. And Lee, let me just ask you, what is the best way that we can honor the time we have together for me, and I can serve you and your community? What direction do you think would be the best way that we could go today?
I've heard you speak many, many times, and there's such a plethora of things that you are an expert at and can explain. Whatever you want to tell a crowd in 20 or 25 minutes at the moment of what's happening now, or how you feel about certain kinds of things, or what you want them to know would be the very best. We'll just turn you loose with that and then comment as you choose.
Well, thank you for that. And what I'd like to do, I'd like to start out with good news. I think we all are yearning for good news today. I was doing an interview just before COVID in 2019. We're going to do this now. The world will always be before and after COVID. So just before COVID, I was doing an interview. And the interviewer, very thoughtfully, it was a young man, really enthusiastic, just wants the best for the world. And he said to me, Greg, he said, why don't you use your influence and the influence of the people that you present with, all of these amazing authors and speakers and scientists and researchers, and gather all the people in the world together into one room that have the influence, the scientists, the engineers, the religious leaders, the spiritual leaders, the social architects, I think I said, and the political leaders, and solve the problems, figure this stuff out. And he was surprised by my answer, because I said, that's a really good idea. It's so good, in fact, it's already been done. And it was done a long time ago. And in the 1960s and 70s, these meetings were happening. And the outcome of these meetings is that it's the source of my good news. We have all the solutions to the big problems in the world, the technological solutions. So let me just back that up and share a little bit about why I'm saying this. We already have all the food we need to feed every mouth of every woman, man, and child on the face of the earth today, yet people are still dying of starvation. It's not for the lack of food. It's because it is yet to become a priority in our thinking. Maybe not you and me in this community, but in general, we don't have the leadership that makes this a priority to get things done. Or when I say leadership, I'm not talking about any one particular leader. It's not about the leader of a country like America or France or, European or African. It's about a perception. It's a way of thinking that has yet to value human life to the degree that the feeding of every human on the face of the earth can become a priority. So we already have that. We already have the technology to create clean, green, sustainable electricity with zero fossil fuels, zero greenhouse gases, in a way that cannot melt down like a Fukushima reactor, and with materials that are abundant on all continents and cannot be weaponized to hurt our brothers and sisters. We've had that for over 70 years. We've had that technology. We already know how to create businesses, economic models. Now listen to this, based upon cooperation and sharing rather than scarcity and competition. You think about that, our entire economic model is based on somebody's got something, somebody else doesn't, they want it, and that is what drives that model. We're talking about sharing and abundance. Every organ in the human body is now documented with the ability to heal itself, to repair the damage, to reverse the aging process. Even the organs and tissues we were told could not, like brain tissue, pancreatic tissue, spinal cord tissue. We have this and so much more. And when I share this good news, Lee and Monica, when I share it with our live audiences, the first thing people ask me is, if we have this, where is it? And it's probably what's coming up for our viewers right now. Where are these things? And the answer to that question is what I want to talk about today. Because the answer is, it is all based upon the way we've been taught to think about ourselves, our relationship to one another, our relationship to the earth, to the cosmos, to the future, to the past, to a higher power. It's all based upon what's called our story. And when people hear the word story, for a lot of them it sounds kind of fluffy, kind of woo-woo, but I just want people to know that we all have a story. And our story determines everything in our lives. We solve our everyday problems based upon the way we think of ourselves. Some of them are big problems, some of them are small problems. Some of them are problems that govern the planet. Some of them are the logistics of getting our kids from point A to point B when traffic won't let us. The way we solve those problems is based upon our story. Every relationship we've ever had in our lives is based upon the way we think about ourselves, the way we heal our bodies, the way we choose our politics, the policies that we embrace in our society, all based on our story. And all of a sudden you begin to see our story. What could be more important? It's not that not only is it not fluff and woo-woo, it is front and center for us right now because we're in a global pandemic to varying degrees and for varying reasons. And we are forced to live our lives differently, to think of ourselves differently, to solve our problems differently, because what we did before simply isn't working for us. And the good news here is that rather than struggle to cling to an old idea and an old story that served us in another time in our lives, but is no longer serving us, rather than clinging to that, we can let it gracefully pass and embrace the new human story that's emerging. And there is a new story. It is a beautiful story of hope and possibility, of self-empowerment and self-regulation of our biology. And it's a very, very different way to think. So what I want to say right now, I know that we all know there's a whole lot going on that we know about. There's a whole lot going on that's not so obvious. It's under the scenes or behind the scenes and underlying what we see. But I think it's no secret that there is a battle that's unfolding in our lives. There's a battle for our thoughts. We all know that. There's a battle for our thoughts playing out in mainstream media, in the curricula, in our classrooms. There's a battle for our beliefs. Who are we? Where do we come from? What do we think about 5G? What do we think about climate change? What do we think about chemtrails? There's a battle for all of that, about UFOs and aliens in the skies. There's a battle for our bodies and what it takes to be healthy and what it takes for our babies when they come out of the womb. What do our babies need to be healthy in this world? There's a battle for that. But all of that is the noise. It's the distraction. It's the diversion for an even deeper battle that very few people are talking about. And Leah, Monica, this is what I want to talk about right now. It's a battle for our very humanness. Our very humanness is on the line right now because technology is advancing so quickly within the context of our story. The technology is being imposed upon our biology. The thinking is, and this is only possible because of an underlying thinking that's been around for over 100 years. The thinking is that, that the human body is flawed in its existence, specifically, and that carbon-based life in general is a flawed form of life. And because the thinking says that we are flawed in our existence, that is the justification to create technology outside of our bodies to replace the natural biology that we have within our bodies. And here's the catch. Here's the catch. what the science shows us is that when we begin to replace our neurons and the chemicals in our blood and the crystalline in our bone with artificial materials and components and computer chips and wires, when we begin to make those replacements, our natural biology begins to atrophy. Now, we all know this because we use the adage all the time, use it or lose it. I mean, there's a lot of ways to use that adage, and this is one of them. So what happens is we begin replacing, I'm just going to give an example. We now have the technology to put computer chips into the human brain, to implant them and actually take the dendrites from the neurons and put them into ports on this chip so that we communicate directly with a computer with no keyboard and with no physical connection, no cables. Now, some people say, man, that's cool, or young people say, that's sweet. But here's the thing. Those chips mimic a capability that we already have, that very few people really are aware of, that we only discovered in 2004. We have specialized neurons that have the ability to see something in the world, whether it's on a computer screen, or get this, or whether it's in our mind. Those neurons don't know the difference between seeing and having the experience. So if those neurons, let's take healing, if those neurons are witnessing the healing of a human body, either in a movie or a film or a picture or in the vision of our mind, I'm going to channel. Lee, you're a channel, so I'm going to channel one of those neurons just for a minute. So here's the neuron. The neuron says, I'm seeing a healing. Oh, I better get with the program and start creating the chemicals in my body so I can support the healing that I am seeing, because I don't know the difference between witnessing and living what's happening. All right, so we have those neurons, and we're just beginning to understand what they mean and how powerful they are and how they can be used. And that's one example. We just discovered a new class of stem cells that are with us until we take our last breath on this planet. When I was in school, I was taught we get stem cells at birth and they atrophy over life, and pretty soon you don't have access to your stem cells. We're just beginning to understand that is not necessarily the case. So I'm not against technology, and I'm not advocating that we do one thing or another. What I'm saying very clearly is this: we are at a critical crossroad in our evolution, the crossroad where biology and technology are coming together. It's going to happen. We can't stop it, but we can guide and direct where this is going. And the question is, how much of ourselves do we give away to the technology? How much of ourselves do we compromise? How much of our humanness are we willing to compromise to the technology? Because once it atrophies in our lifetime, the next generation, the body says, oh, that's a vestige from another time. We don't need to do that anymore. And pretty soon we lose the very essence of what gives us our humanness, our ability to emote, our ability to reproduce through intimate human relationships, our ability to create within us a robust immune response is a beautiful example. All of these things begin to atrophy, and we become very, very different species. So the question is, how much of ourselves do we want to give away? The answer is that we cannot answer that question until we know who we are, until we know what we're giving away. And that's the invitation to embrace the new human story, to embrace the new discoveries of the new science that are overturning 150 years of the limitations that we have been taught to accept in the past. And I think it would be an important conversation anytime, Leah and Monica, but it's up for us right now. COVID is a launch pad. It's a catalyst for bringing these technologies into our lives at an accelerated pace. So what I'm talking about, it's not like we can put that on the back burner and say, it's going to take, 10 years for this to happen. It's not. It's happening now. Some societies are accepting the technologies faster than others. And And all of this comes back to this way of thinking. And I've talked to advocates of this way of thinking. And what they say is this: because the human body, humanness is flawed, think how much better our lives and our world would be if we can replace the uncertainty of neurons and cells and bones and blood with the certainty of computer chips and components. What if we can replace the messiness of intimate human relationships where people disagree and they fight? They say that's a distraction. It keeps us from advancing in the sciences and in these technological ways. Well, they say, what if we can engineer our births? Because we now have the ability to go into the womb of a living woman after conception and engineer the DNA to select the traits. Fast twitch muscles for athletic performance or slow twitch muscles. Different parts of the brain stimulated to increase IQ, or changing hair color or eye color or skin color. They say, why take the chance on birth defects? Why take the chance on the health problems when we can engineer this? Think of what a great world this would be. So the question becomes very clearly, who decides what the desirable traits are? Who decides what's good? Well, I mean, we have like some panel sitting around a table somewhere saying, I vote for this color skin and this color hair. And diversity is our strength, and we stand to lose that diversity. So this is up for us all right now. And actually in some Asian societies and partially due to COVID, but even before COVID was happening, intimate human relationships, and I'm talking about sexual human relationships, were being replaced through software apps and remote controlled devices to satisfy the sexual urge without the intimacy and the messiness of human interaction. And what's happening in those societies is the birth rate is dropping, sperm counts are dropping, fertility rate in women is decreasing, more people are dying than are being born. I'm sorry, more people are dying. The birth rate has dropped so low that people they are losing their population. And it's not 100% because of the technology, but the technology is playing a role. And it's like a canary in the coal mine saying, this is a heads up. We need to really check this out. Now, what I'm talking about may sound esoteric, but Elon Musk just brought this front and center recently when he did a very compelling interview. And I'm not an anti-Elon Musk fan at all. He's young, he's visionary, he's wealthy, he's pushing the boundaries of everything we believe about technology until something pushes back. And this is what he said. He said for the first time, he is concerned about where the technology is leading in general, specifically artificial intelligence. He said he is afraid. He looked at the camera and he said, I'm afraid of where this is going. He said, as a CEO, I have to empower my people to push forward as fast as they can to keep the market share and to stay ahead of my competitors. But he said, I'm pleading not just my company, this entire industry, we need to reel it in. We need to pull it back. We need to regulate it because he says, I'm afraid of where the artificial intelligence is headed, and it's going to happen fast. And that was a heads up for a lot of people who've never heard Elon Musk say anything like that before, because they didn't know this is happening. They said, what is he talking about? What's going on that is happening so quickly? So I think this is really important, and I'm just going to I'm not sure how I did on time because I lost track of my timer, but where this comes down, Lee and Monica, we're talking about broad brushstrokes, and this sounds like big stuff, and people say, man, what could I possibly do about that? And here's where I'm coming from with this whole conversation. All of this boils down to human values. There's a new world that's emerging post-COVID. It's not quite here yet, We're creating that world now, and I can't possibly know, nobody can, precisely what that world's going to look like. Technology is definitely going to play a big role. We can't predict with absolute certainty what's going to happen, but here's what we can do with absolute certainty. We can choose the human values that we cherish as individuals, as families, as communities, as societies, as nations, as a species. We can choose those values and make them very clearly the foundation, make them the foundation of every choice moving forward, every law that's enacted, every policy that's embraced. Make them the yardstick by which we gauge our elected officials. Will they support these? The corporations that we support through our purchases and our money, where do these people and entities stack up when it comes to these fundamental human values? And they can be as simple as life itself, or freedom, or creativity and imagination, or community. And there's so many more. But it's these values that become the foundation of everything that we do. And it's these values that make it a priority for all of the good news that I began with to be embraced in our world. Because when these values become front and center, then those good news solutions, they become the go-to solutions. It makes perfect sense to go to those because those solutions match the values that we've embraced. Whereas now, it's like we're playing whack-a-mole. You know, we've got these old values and we're doing these one-offs. We're trying to impose one solution here for climate change, another solution there for the economy, and people push back because it doesn't make sense. So if we start with the foundation of the values, I think this is the opportunity that's at hand for us right now, and it's something that we all participate in because it begins right in our living room. So I'm going to pause there for a moment. I'm not sure how we did on time, and I'll turn it over to you, Leah and Monica, and see where we go from here.
I think it's a beautiful conversation of everything you've brought up, completely with what you finished with. And for me, part of what I was feeling into the conversation is that our solutions have always been there within the wisdom keepers of the Indigenous. And I mention this because you yourself have spent so much time with the shamans and ancient traditions, and you are completely right that wisdom and that knowledge, the connection they have with the planet, the way they have and retain information is part of the tools and gifts that we are going to need as part of this emerging new world.
Greg, I want to ask you, you did your timing perfectly, just in the minute and a half or so. People are going to say, where can I hear more? Where is Greg speaking? Are there courses? Are there classes? Are there TV programs? Where can they find them?
Well, thank you, Lee and Monica. I'm not doing much many live events right now. We had planned to, and we hope to be able to begin those again. Let me invite you, just go to my website, www.gregbraden, it's Greg with two G's, Gregg, Braden, BRADEN.com. You'll see all the books, all the languages the books are published in, any events that we have, either virtual or live. And Leah, Monica, thank you for your care and for allowing me the opportunity to just share what's important for me right now and what I think is important for all of us. And I want to thank you both for the work that you have very ingeniously found a way not only continue, but to excel at doing through forums like this, to keep our community tight, to keep our community informed, to keep our family together through this pivotal change, and this once in a civilizational change is where we are right now, and we look to you for that guidance and support. Lee, I've lost track of how many years. It's probably close to 30 years that you and I have known one another.
Long time.
And I'm in awe of the passion with which, and the dedication and the energy with which you approach doing everything you're doing right now. So I'm honored to be with you, and thank you both.
Well,
Thank you,
we
Greg.
just love you, Greg, and
Yes.
honoured and blessed with everything that you shared with us. Yeah.
So, wow, that was a lot. And I just hope so much there are many of you who never heard of Greg Braden until this minute. And if you're one of those, I hope that you're tingling, that somebody is out there talking like this. So take a 10-minute break. We'll be back with a Circle of 12. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. That was just astonishing. We are still talking about it. He's, I think, the man of our time, as far as I'm concerned. I'm biased. He's a good friend. Thank you, Greg, again, for your participation in our show.
Absolutely. And again, if you're one of the rare people on the planet that have not heard of Greg Braden, please go to his website and have a look at all the things that he's done. So many books that he has written.
Yes.
You're going to love all of them if you're new to the work. All right, so let's move into the Circle of 12. And as we prepare for the Circle of 12, I'd like to begin by giving some statements of intent. And I will say each intent 3 times, and you're invited to say them silently or aloud. I release all expectations, and I am willing to be open to the energy of compassion in my life. I release all expectations, and I am willing to be open to the energy of compassion in my life. I release all expectations, and I am willing to be open to the energy of compassion in my life. I accept the perfect love of God. I accept the perfect love of God. I accept the perfect love of God. I give permission to experience the grandness of my soul. I give permission to experience the grandness of my soul. I give permission to experience the grandness of my soul. I am ready.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon. Come a little closer. Come a little closer for a story. The scientist Greg has been with you today. A visionary he is. Perhaps without even hearing any of the Kryon channels, he tells a story that I have been telling for some time. And the story that there could be a division between humanity coming. And the division would respect that, the choice indeed, but a division there would be. Of those who have decided to continue the old ways, thinking that the old ways are the only ways. And even though they're old ways, they develop into new ways reflective of old energies. And then there are the ones, many who are watching this program, who are looking to the future in a different way, saying, what I have in my body is sufficient for so many things And a new normal that Kryon talks about, they say, is one where wisdom starts to increase. And an evolution we didn't expect starts to happen that affects us in ways that we will know better and be able to create things for the future without ruining it from the old ways. I spoke of a division many times where those who follow that intuition that there are pieces and parts of God will start to discover remedies, inventions on their own that utilize natural things. And that would create many who would live longer. And they would live longer naturally from what they had discovered about themselves with the new gained wisdom, putting things together, never been put together before, that were more natural than ever before. And that because they would live longer, there would be an entire group who would say, we have no understanding of what you're doing. We have all this technology and we're still not living as long as you are. It must be witchcraft. It must be magic. And that is what they'll say. It sounds outlandish, perhaps. But dear ones, when you start being excluded from certain groups because you don't do certain kinds of things, it has begun. There are many who are worried. They say, well, I understand that there could be a split. And they wouldn't understand a higher thinking human being who is able to heal themselves, perhaps, and live longer from their own consciousness. I understand that. I understand there could be a split, but isn't that going to tear us apart? Isn't that going to tear humanity apart? I will tell you this, dear ones, that the more who are born on this planet in this new energy, they accept and have different DNA. And when I say different DNA, I mean there are switches turned on that you didn't have and that your parents didn't have. And what I mean switches, I mean biologically. They are ready and waiting and willing to be wiser and smarter. And they will start seeing the difference. And there's going to be more of the ones doing it naturally than not eventually. But the battle starts now. It's part of that which I predicted. That humanity, some of humanity is ready for this, and some is not. The teacher, Greg, the scientist, is sounding the bell that says, watch what happens next. For even without that, which is the channeling, he sees it because it is coming and it's obvious. And the things that I would say to you, dear ones, is that do not fear the future. Yes, there will be issues like this, but do not fear it. For you are on the side of light. And it's going to be exceptionally obvious, especially to the young people who are starting to come up, that the true way of saving yourself and saving the planet and all of that is through that which we call the new human. The one who is kinder, the one who understands that relationships, all relationships between races, countries, cultures, genders, all relationships are based on respect and love. When a certain amount of the population becomes kinder with each other and start living longer, I'll tell you, that is very attractive, especially to the young people looking around, deciding what is what. You might say, well, I'm not really sure, because young people, well, they're always attracted to the new things. They'll always want the new technology. They're going to want this and that. Give them credit, dear ones, especially those coming up, not born yet. Give them credit to look around and see. Yes, they'll want the gadgets, but when it comes to that which is the planet and their health and the way things work, they're going to be a little smarter than you might think. This future of yours is going to be far different than you think. Today I gave you a channeling about the field, and we still speak of the field. For the field still will contain that which is consciousness of the way the planet is thinking, and specifically the way certain parts of the planet is thinking and things perhaps that are coming up. There was an old paradigm that said if anything good happens, for instance, a wonderful invention that would be beneficial to all and to the planet, that it would be captured by old energy corporations as soon as it was there and be buried. I want to give you another scenario. Indeed, that is what has happened over and over. The teacher Greg, he didn't mention that all the solutions were already there, but an older attitude of how the body is thought of and how you grew up and what you thought kept you from utilizing any of them. That is an old energy, dear ones. That is a paradigm that you grew up in, so many of you. What if I told you there is a new paradigm? The field plays into this in a way you're not aware of. Have you noticed that many times profound changes on the planet, meaning inventions, happen all at once, all over the planet, but the first one to utilize it is the one who gets the credit? We've said this before, that the Wright brothers, who established powered flight for you, only beat the French by 2 weeks. In other words, it was being developed in other places and tried in other places. But the ones who got there first, well, they got the credit. The invention of the radio was so close, almost simultaneously, that it was a toss-up. Who would get the credit? Marconi. And yet it was taking place in several areas of the world who never even talked to each other because they didn't have radio. What am I telling you? It is common, dear ones, for a consciousness to evolve together in groups where you have things happen simultaneously, where ideas and inventions are happen simultaneously instead of just one bright spot. When you have the field and you're tuned into it, that means that no human being can capture all of the ideas from all of the sources. It's a new thinking. No one is going to be able to stop something that is good for you and the planet and measured as good for you because the planet agrees and Gaia does not suffer because of an invention. Or you'll live longer because of natural things that are discovered. These are the kinds of things we speak of. The circle of 12 is upon you. The circle of 12 takes you into that which is the energy of your soul. And we want to take you there yet again because we've got some stories to tell you, and there is someone I want you to meet, those I want you to meet. Let's go there. You cross this bridge with me, please, which represents a barrier and a bridge all at the same time because some don't want to cross it. The bridge is between that which is your dimensionality, which is linear and singular, to a different kind of reality, which is multidimensional. And both of them are you. And we've said this before because your soul is a multidimensional part of you. Biology can be multidimensional. Your soul rests in that area, you might say. The bridge goes between what you think you know and what you don't know. And you come to the middle of that bridge, and you can pass right through, or perhaps stop and ponder it. Some have a mist because they don't wish to see beyond it. Some do not. But we're going to cross the bridge right now. Please cross the bridge with me. Together, let's go. Take my hand. Come closer, dear ones. It's a beautiful place, if you want to call it that, where suddenly you can feel the peace that is there. A peace, dear ones, of your lineage, of your past lives, of all that you are, of all that you've experienced that is good and benevolent and kind. There's love there that you knew was there, but you were truly not able to feel like you do here. Oh, I want you to invite that love into your heart right now, because it's part of that which is the creative source, and it's always been there. Do you know that? So many of you struggling so long to feel these things, and here they are. And they've always been here. But you've never felt them in an older energy because you were told you can't go here, and here you are. This is real, dear ones. This is real. Come to that amphitheater with me through the portal right now. I have some I want you to meet. You are in a place that has no beginning and no end. There is no time here. Everything is in a circle. The circle of 12, it is, the way the universe works. And if you knew that, you'd know that time is a construct. It is not normal. It is put upon this place to make sense to you. So you are in a theater with no time. I want you to go down those stairs and get up onto the stage as you always do. Take that seat as you always do, because there are some who want to talk to you. If you are in a timeless place, you already know perhaps where we're going. If there is no time, that means the future and the potentials of the future have already taken place. That's confusing for me, Kryon. Yes, it is indeed. Since there are no rules of what is going to happen and you control it all, how can I give you that which is going to happen? How can anyone tell you that? And the answer is because the field contains it. The potentials are there for everything you're going to hear right now. Sit in the chair. Sit down. Lights come up in the audience and let you see them. You don't know them. Some of them are dressed oddly. There's some colors you've never seen before. There's some iridescence you don't know. There's beauty there. They look good. They're all healthy, all of them. Who are these? One will stand up as a spokesman for the others, and they will say, "This, dear ones, is your future, as measured today by the field." Did you get that? The future is contained by the potentials that exist now in the field. And these are from that future that you are creating right now in a timeless way. And this spokesman is about to tell you all about it. Do you have any questions before I begin? The spokesman might say, and you will say, "We've been told that we're doomed. The planet is in horrible shape. We've polluted it. It's dying. We are hungry. We are dying. There's so much strife. There's so much hatred. What's going to happen?" And the man stands next to a woman who has also stood up. And the difference between them, you might say they would look the same. They don't. You see, the woman is wearing violet, purple, and you recognize she's a shaman. And that couple together, that male and the female, are now going to start talking to you about that beautiful future that is in your field. And they're going to say, do not fear for Gaia, because the wise human being is about to have inventions that clean the planet. When you stop polluting the planet, it does what we would call bioremediation, and you've never seen anything like it. Gaia will recover when you stop polluting it, when you stop mining it in certain ways. The atmosphere will clear itself. If there's no pollutions poured into the air becomes clean. You've even seen that in 1 year. There are inventions coming where all the power you ever need will not be on a grid. It will be on every building and every house, and it will not pollute. It will not use one resource of the planet. There are inventions coming where you can grow enough for all of the planet, distribute it for all of the planet. There is no more hunger in this future that is in the field, dear ones. And you might stand there and not even know what to say. What? How can this be? We have an expanding population. It's going crazy. They'll tell you there is wisdom even in the ancestors that knew how to control their population simply by knowing when to have children. That's called wisdom, something you're not used to in your world. You will say, well, what about some of the strife that is between religions and all these things? And they will say, there is allowance with wisdom and a celebration for all to honor God in their own way and celebrate and ceremony in their own way. And the finger pointing of who's right and who's wrong stopped hundreds of years ago, because now we know that the glory of the Creator is in all individuals. And just like some have different kinds of food, some will worship differently, and it is not an issue. And you're looking at all of it and saying, impossible, impossible. And they say it's not impossible. It is, and it begins now. And they start telling you things that you can't remember, and you won't remember when you come back, about those who are developing these very things at this moment, and it's in the field. Dear ones, there is a potential for your future that you have not yet seen or realized or know. It's in the field now. It's being developed now. All over the planet, there are bright spots for this, and I have barely scratched the surface, because we didn't even talk about disease and how high consciousness will not even let it fester in a new human being. That's the new human. How would you like that? I want you to sit and ponder and smile. For we are speaking of the future for your children and for their children, and for things on the planet to stop that were always there in an old energy: strife, hunger, disease, death, horror, war. A new dispensation has begun. Can you sit and celebrate this and be healed in the knowledge of what may occur that's in the field right now, happening on the planet? Seeds are being planted for every single thing I discussed. Stay. Stay. Stay and speak to the earth as it thanks you for what you're about to do. And so it is.